Hi, I'm Bonnie, the General Manager of Future Generation, and today we're here with Gary Groves, the CEO of ReachOut. So Gary, thank you very much for being here today. Can you provide us with a brief overview of what ReachOut does and who it supports?
Yeah, sure. So good to be here. So ReachOut's been around for probably 25 years or longer, and our sole mission is to really support young people through a digital online presence. So we do that through two main services. One's called Peer Chat, which allows young people to text our peer workers, often with lived experience, about how they're feeling, get some content, some tips, and potentially a referral to another service provider. And we also have parent-carer coaching, which is kind of what I call the social fabric or the wraparound of that young person, and it's online digital coaching for parents who struggle with their kids and their mental health. So both national services. If I was to sum it up, we're in essence the digital first step for a young person's journey regarding their mental health.
And we hear often about how much young people are struggling. In an ideal world, what would be the outcomes for youth mental health? How would a world exist where ReachOut was no longer required?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for ReachOut not to exist, we believe every young person should get access earlier on in their life to actually prevent those young people going into crisis. And we also know that a lot of people are isolated and really lonely. So where they feel comfortable and have the courage to actually talk to organisations like ReachOut, or feel comfortable walking in and talking about how they feel with no stigma, would be a great place to be in, because people get the help when they need it the most, much earlier on in their life cycle.
And so you guys provide lots of educational material for teachers and for parents and for children. You're at the prevention end of the mental health spectrum. Where do you see the value in prevention?
Prevention, early intervention. And so someone said to me the other day, if you fund crisis, you'll always get crisis. If you fund early intervention, you actually get prevention, which it's real common sense. We often say we want to be at the start of a young person's digital journey. So that could be when they're 18, 14, 12. I think early intervention really does change a young person's life about where they actually go and seek support. If we are able to pour more funds into early intervention, then you're going to see less crisis at the other end. And everyone gets the premise of early intervention, but the funding opportunity is small because it often takes longer for a young person to achieve those outcomes. So it's not in a 4-year political cycle, for example. So early intervention in health, primary health, actually is where everyone wants to be. But mental health in particular, you actually stop it into a crisis, which is super important.
So you were recently in Canberra for the Mental Health Australia Policy Forum. What were your key takeaways from the event?
Yeah, it's always a good event to have like almost 83 of your colleagues in one room together. It doesn't happen very often. We had a few ministers come and talk about the budget and the impact it's going to have on our services as a whole. So a few takeaways for me. One is that 13 Yarn, which is connected to Lifeline, was funded significantly for our First Nations young people. So it's a text-based service, which is great. We didn't see a lot of funding in the early intervention prevention space, which was disappointing. But what it actually did force us to do was, how do we collaborate in a different way to achieve those early intervention outcomes? So we all work together to look at how, for example, what a seamless user journey looks like for a young person when the system is already so complex and flooded with services. We also had a great chat about artificial intelligence and the impact that's having on young people's mental health. And also agreed on a couple of policy positions to go back to government with, in particular, the digital duty of care that protects young people online. So very helpful event to not only collaborate but partner with other similar like-minded organisations.
So you did mention that there wasn't a lot of funding for prevention in the mental health budget. In this increasingly competitive funding market, how are you looking at the future of your organisation and the sector?
Yeah, it's a really difficult one at the moment. We're all striving for the one pot of funding, which is not growing, it's actually getting smaller. And we also know that, as I said before, funding early intervention is not at the top of the list for government. So one of the things ReachOut's doing is looking at how we diversify our income sources, and that's about now having conversations with premiers of the various state and territory governments to say, here's the problem you have with young people. You too need to have a buy-in in that space. So really advocating back to government, not federal government, but state and territory governments. Our Laps for Life campaign is a really big campaign we run. We've realised we need to be more sophisticated in that space to ensure enough people participate, because often untied funding like FGG really enables us to innovate and provide services to young people that our contract with government doesn't allow. Yep. And Laps for Life, I think last year we swam an equivalent of about 98,000 kilometres, which was twice around the world. But it actually gives you an insight into how many people see ReachOut as such a worthy cause, and the number of people who have lost other family members to suicide. So it's still really prevalent, and it's a great campaign, but diversification and sustainability outside government, in particular federal government, is super important right now.
So you have touched on it, but what is the value of untied funding and grants like those of Future Generation?
Yeah, it is. You could not run an organisation without untied funding, to be quite frank with you. So, FGG has been with us, I actually did the maths the other day, about 10 years. But what's important is when you look at what we've achieved with the funding provided, ReachOut is governed by young people. So we have been able to use that untied funding to build capability in young people, take them to Canberra and let them advocate on behalf of other young people in front of ministers. And often when we walk the hallways and we sit in rooms similar to this with ministers, it's not me doing the talking, it's the young people. Yeah. And when you can see how intellectual they are and on point about the big issues like the social media ban, the digital duty of care, for example, we're really proud to say actually funding like FGG allowed this to happen. And crucially important because they're the live wire of what's going on in community. So without that, we don't exist.
Yeah. I mean, the work you do is incredibly impactful. You meet the kids where you are, you provide them a platform and an opportunity for advocacy, allowing them to feel empowered and heard, and you are moving the dial. And so we're so proud that you're one of our Future Gen global partners. Thank you so much for being here today, Gary. If you'd like to know more about our social impact partners and the wonderful work they're doing to support young people across Australia, please visit our website, futuregeninvest.com.au.